This is a Grit Talk, and my name is Chris Buccini, and I'm here to answer 7 questions. What have you not done yet and that you would like to be part of your story or included in your eulogy? Well, not so much my eulogy, but what I would like to be included in my story is this building that we're all in today. In 1999, when I was quite young, I was in my 20s, our company acquired this building, and at the time there wasn't very much going on in the city of Wilmington. And as you can imagine, when we were in our 20s, not having really done anything in Wilmington before, we made a lot of mistakes. And in the ensuing 25 years, the city has redeveloped, changed profoundly, and we are in the middle of a $100 million redevelopment of this building that we're all sitting in today. And the exciting thing about this building is, since then, when we first started here, there were no market rate apartments in the entire city of Wilmington. Today, we have over 3,000 apartments here in the city of Wilmington, right around this building. So this building to me it's an expression of all the change that has happened in the city. It's an expression of the James Beard award-winning restaurants that have opened, the bars, the sports, the entertainment. It's an expression of the way we work and the way we have fun here in Delaware has changed. The building is going from what was a early 1900s DuPont headquarters building into 350 luxury apartments. And the only office that will be left when this transformation is done next year is about 25% of what was office will be left, and it will be in the form of the Mill, which is a co-working office space. So again, everything here will be very different, and also here in the anchor will be another award-winning chef inspired restaurant, which will come next year. So, hopefully all that will work out. How has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure? Well, that's hard because I have a lot of failures. And the one failure I'm going to talk about, I talk about a lot. It was in 2008. It was the summer of 2008. It's pre-Lehman Brothers. It's pre the GFC, the global financial crisis. And I walk into my mother's room, office here, because we work together, my mother and me. And I walk in there, I go, Mom, it just feels really scary out there, like things are gonna get really bad. And my mom goes, good, you need to learn how to suffer. And thanks, Mom, vote of confidence. But it really was the beginning of 4 years of a really, really tough time in my career. I was in my late 30s, and I'll never forget, sure enough, a few months later, Lehman goes down. It's the night of right before my child's birthday, and I'm looking at all of our hotels around the country, just the occupancy plummeting and the rate plummeting, and it was a moment of fear. And what I learned during that time was, one, my mom was saying, like, just, it is what it is. Go figure it out. And you learn that no matter what the adversity that's facing you, is you can figure it out. Just wake up every morning, tie your shoes, go to work, make it happen, rinse, repeat. And sure enough, 4 years later, it's long 4 years, but it worked out. And I have to say that there probably isn't a day in my work life where the lessons I learned during that period at quite a young age aren't with me and aren't making me a better investor, a better business person. And actually, I think the great takeaway I learned was, I had over $1 billion of debt, and I had a lot of lenders, and they were really scary and mean, and you'd sort of go up to this windowless conference room in New York City and have to sit down across from them. And what you realize is they're just human beings. They've got kids. They've got a mortgage. They've got a boss. They've got to figure things out. And so when you communicate with people and you talk to people and you understand what their goals are and they understand what your goals are and you're honest and you communicate, you can pretty much figure most things out. So that was an incredible failure of the many failures that I'm actually quite grateful for. And I'm grateful that I had it in my late 30s and not my late 50s. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life? Well, this may sound a little bit silly, but sleep and sunshine. Coming out of COVID, there were a lot of great things that came out of COVID. A lot of not so great things, but some great things came out of it. And probably like others in the room, I started to slow down a little bit. I went to bed a little bit earlier. I got up a little bit later, and I slept. And having been on this hamster wheel for decades, it felt so rejuvenating. And it's something that my wife and I have really continued. And it's something that we've made more important. And I'd always heard that the most important thing before diet and exercise and blah, 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 was sleep. And it's something that I feel so much better. And I feel like I'm putting years back onto my life that maybe otherwise wouldn't have been. And the other habit was I try to get 20 minutes of sunshine in the morning. Unfortunately, I get stuck in my office a lot of the day. And my exercise is going from one conference room to one office to another conference room. And I don't move around a lot. So I try to reset my circadian rhythm every morning with a 20-minute walk. Even when it's cloudy out, I feel a huge boost. So a little bit silly, but something that truly has improved my life. Would activities make you lose track of time? Well, time is something I become increasingly a bit obsessed about. How do we do more with less? How do we make the most precious asset we have, time? How do we make it most valuable? And that which makes me lose track of time the most is emails. I'm in an operating business. Constantly there's a problem, every day. And we have operations in office buildings, and residential buildings, and hotels, and music venues, and sports venues, and there's always a problem. It's just the way of life. Well, I get about 75,000 to 100,000 emails every year. And that's not just like, hey, Chris, your membership is expiring. It's like a lot of it is like stuff I got to read. And so I feel like I'm constantly trying to keep up with my emails. Last night I think I spent from 6:30 to 9:30 just trying to dig out. So the place I've really failed is figuring out how to reduce those emails and how to get back that time. It's something I'm working on. So we'll love everyone's advice on that after this. What book do you most often give or recommend, and how has that book influenced you? Well, I'm a huge user of Amazon, and I love to buy books. And unfortunately, I don't read. I have sort of stacks of books that I'm gonna one day read. They're sort of like towering on my bedside floor. But this week alone, I have bought 5 books, 4 of which are presents. One is for me. The one that is for me, I just was walking by. There's a great new bookstore on Market Street, which was I love bookstore. It's an independent bookstore, so I highly recommend you go there. But the other 4 were A Movable Feast by Hemingway. I bought for my daughter. And for both my boys, I bought The Sun Also Rises by Hemingway. And the reason I bought them, they're for Christmas, but I ordered them on Monday, and because 2 of my kids are in business school, and I'm constantly beating on them the importance of the humanities. Yes, it's great to understand how to do an IRR, understand finance, or an Excel spreadsheet, and it's important for some of what we all do in our lives. But it's so important to have a big, broad view of the world and to be educated. And so I'm constantly trying to make sure that they have these classics. And then the other book I bought this week was I love hospitality, and I was fortunate to be at a great place last week where the gentleman who ran this hotel, he was so good. He started when I got there, he said, "Here you'll never hear no." And so I sent him a book, actually I'm sending it today, it just came, called Unreasonable Hospitality. And it's a story written by a fairly young guy who bought the restaurant 11 Madison in New York City, and he turned it from what was a very good restaurant into the #1 restaurant in the world. And it's a story of how he got there. And he got there through unreasonable hospitality. It was just, he just brought everything to the nth degree. It was fascinating for me. So I like to give that book to a lot of people. Those that are in the hospitality business, I think, and so many of us are in the hospitality business, maybe without even knowing we are, I like to give that book out a lot as well. What have you purchased or have been given in the last year valued under $200 that has most positively impacted your life? Well, I don't know if it's most positively impacted my life, but I love it. And actually, I didn't buy it, and it wasn't given to me. It was sort of stolen. I love to travel. It's my favorite thing in the world. And I was at this wonderful little hotel outside of Rome this year, and I was checking out, and there's this amazing little orange pen. And I looked at the Italian woman, and again, I love hospitality, and maybe it was a little bit of a test. And I said, "May I have that pen?" And she looked at me like I was crazy, because it was like a nice pen. Actually, I don't think it was that expensive, but it looked really expensive. And she's, I don't know, I have to go check with my manager. And she came back and she said, "No, I think I can give you that pen." I said, "Actually, may I have 2 of them?" And she said, "Okay, sure." Well, why do I love this pen? It's beautiful. It's so simple. It's literally that big. And, but it's just so simple and beautiful, and I love design. So I love the simple elegance and the design of it. I love that it reminds me of this great moment I was having with my wife in this beautiful place in a beautiful part of the world. I love it because my memory is like really getting bad. And so I have to write everything down. So this pen, one is always in my pocket and one is always in my backpack. This pen is always with me to do it. And I also love the color orange. So I'm really worried about what happens when the ink dries out. And we're going to spend a lot of time trying to track this orange pen down. But it gives me great joy. And I find that as we get older, it's oftentimes the simple things in life that really give us the greatest joy. If you could broadcast a message to everyone in the world, knowing it would be received and remembered, what would that message be? This is a great question, and I thought about it last night. I was having a long conversation on the phone with a friend of mine who I went to Friends School with, and I went to a Quaker school. I went to the Wilmington Friends School. I think a few of you all here went here. And there's a great Quaker testimony that said, "Let your life speak." And as I get older, I think more about those 12 years I spent in Quaker education. I think more about my Catholic faith. And both of those have really been guideposts for me as to how I run my business. I often joke that we run our company as a Quaker institution because it's a lot of consensus. It's a lot of talking and talking and talking and talking more until we all come to agreement. There's very little hierarchy. But what I love about that saying, "Let your life speak," it's all about how do we live our lives in a way that show our values. And what I also love about that is it speaks to our individual authenticity in life. And you know, it's inspirational. I love to be around people who let their lives speak. And so it's not being the mayor, the president, or this and that. It's oftentimes when we let our lives speak, it's in very subtle ways. And so, you know, I have a friend here today who's he's a professional race car driver. And the intensity with which he performs his job is something that I find very inspirational in the way I do things. It was Monday night watching the Eagles, and for those of you guys that saw Big Dom, the security guard that got ejected from the Eagles game, what I loved about Big Dom is like everyone knew him. He was a security guard, but it was the way that he did his job and the way that he inspired people that really, I think, had a big impact. So if I could think to everyone around, you know, if we all in big and small ways, we let our lives speak, what an incredible way to live our lives and to affect our communities. And with that, I would also like to thank Bill Dugdale, who brilliant what you've created here, and to Alliance Bernstein for you know all that you guys do. So you know, thank you for letting me speak.